Welcome back to Brent Lab, where we transform obstacles into opportunities and anxiety into strength. Today we're diving into a concept that might shake the foundation of your fears. The idea that all fear, at its root, is the fear of death. Whether you're worried about money, health, relationships, or the future, there's a common thread that runs through it all. The fear of the end of your survival, the fear of the end of you. By the end of this video, you'll see how all fears, worries, and anxieties can be traced back to a single source: the fear of death. You'll see why this fear is unnecessary and how spiritual wisdom reveals that we are eternal, beyond the limitations of physical life. You'll see how common anxieties like worrying about money actually reflect deeper survival fears, which stem from identifying with impermanent things. And you'll learn insights from spiritual teachings that show how awakened individuals transcend this fear and find peace in the present moment. The root of all fear. Why not start with a bold statement? All fear is tied to the fear of death.
You serious?
It sounds simple, but think about it. Why are you afraid of losing money? Because you've tied your survival to it. Why are you anxious about your health? Because it threatens your physical existence. Why are you afraid of failure or rejection? Because it threatens your ego, your sense of self, which is another layer of survival. All suffering is caused by my identifying myself with something, whether that something is within me or outside of me. We fear because we've identified with things: money, status, relationships, or even health. When we identify with those things, and then they're threatened, we feel that our self is under attack. The fear of death is the fear of losing control. Think about it. What is death but the ultimate loss of control? It's the end of the familiar, the known, the comfortable. We fear it because it's the unknown, the inevitable, and we've been conditioned to see it as something final. But here's the shift. Spiritual wisdom has taught us that death is not the end. In fact, in many traditions, it's seen as a continuation, a passing through, not a stopping point. One sign that you're awakened is that you don't give a damn about what's going to happen in the next life. You're not bothered about it. Why? Because when you realize that you are eternal, beyond time and physical form, the fear of death fades away. Stop asking yourself if there is life after death. Start asking yourself if there's life before it. You are eternal. Why fear death? You are eternal. You always have been, and you always will be. This is not just spiritual fluff. Many ancient traditions, from Eastern philosophies to Western mysticism, teach that the essence of who we are is beyond time. We tend to think of eternity as time going on forever, but I've heard eternity described as timelessness, without time. It's not everlasting life in the future. It's right now. The awakened state is realizing that life isn't just something that happens between birth and death. It's something much bigger, beyond the physical. When you understand this, the fear of death, and by extension the fear of anything, loses its grip on you. Everyday anxieties: money, health, and the fear of death. Let's take a practical example: money. Why do you stress about money? Because society has conditioned you to equate it with survival. Without money, you fear you won't be able to meet your basic needs: food, shelter, safety. But in reality, this anxiety about money is a reflection of a deeper survival fear: the fear of death. You've tied your existence to this external resource, so when it's threatened, you feel your life is at risk. The same goes for health anxiety. We're not just afraid of discomfort or illness, we're afraid of what that might mean: the loss of life, the loss of control over our bodies. But remember, when you no longer identify your sense of self with these things, who you truly are can't feel threatened, and the fear dissolves. Do you think you are your body? Do you think you are your financial position? Do you think you are your mind? Do you think you are your thoughts or your feelings? What do you identify with? Awakened people don't fear death. Here's something to think about. What do all awakened or enlightened people have in common? They don't fear death. All the great sages throughout history transcended the fear of death. They realized that life is much more than the physical body, the ego, or the material world. Why should you be any different? If these enlightened individuals have found peace beyond the fear of death, then why can't you? Practical steps to dissolve the fear. Firstly, identify the desire behind the fear. The next time you feel anxious, ask yourself, what do I really desire here? Is it security, control, comfort? Then ask yourself, why do I think my sense of self is tied to this? Secondly, embrace the eternal present. Remember DeMello's words, eternity is right now. Don't think of eternity as time enduring forever. Think of eternity as without time, timelessness. Start shifting your focus from the fear of the future and death to the peace of the present moment. And lastly, detach from external identifications. Begin the practice of detaching your identity from money, status, or even health. When you no longer tie your self-worth to these things, they lose their power to create fear. Let's recap. You've learned that all fear can be traced back to the fear of death. We've explored how identifying with external things, like money, health, or status, causes suffering because they're tied to survival. Spiritual wisdom shows us that we are eternal, beyond the physical, and therefore, death is nothing to fear. Awakened individuals transcended this fear, and you can too, by recognizing the illusion of death and shifting your focus to the eternal present. Here at Brinth Lab, we blend physical fitness, mental health, and spiritual principles to help you overcome anxiety and lead a more fulfilling life. You can think of us like your personal trainers for anxiety. We can connect, we can coach you, and we look forward to getting to know you and walking this path together. So if you are struggling with anxiety, please take the first step and reach out to us at care@brinithlab.com. Remember, death is not the opposite of life, but a part of it. I am really looking forward to seeing you next time. Stay strong and keep experimenting.